Hey Cowboys Nation, let's go for another round of news from America's team. Watch until the end so you don't miss any news and sign up to stay tuned for everything that comes out about the Cowboys.
Cowboys news. Trevon Diggs needs to silence doubters again in 2024. Cowboys' Trevon Diggs once again will have to prove NFL value in 2024. Reed Hansen, Cowboys Wire. Trevon Diggs can't seem to escape his doubters, which sets up an intriguing return from his ACL tear. The Athletic recently ran a redraft of the 2020 class. They broke down the class position by position and picked which order the players would be picked today if teams could do things over again. Diggs, drafted 8th in his position group originally, moved up 4 spots in the redraft to come in 4th amongst his peers. Jalen Johnson, A.J. Terrell and L'Jarius Sneed ranked above Diggs in the redraft, fanning the flames of disrespect and once again calling for Diggs to silence doubters across the league. In all fairness, Johnson, Terrell, and Sneed are elite CBs in the NFL and deserve every bit of praise they've received in their journey. But Diggs is arguably the most talented ballhawk the NFL has seen in years, and the benefits gained by his untraditional style of play have far outweighed the costs. The reason Diggs has so many detractors across the NFL is because the style in which he plays. Where most CBs focus on technique and minimizing separation, Diggs plays things more naturally, willing to fall out of phase in coverage because he knows he has an uncanny ability to get back in phases at a moment's notice. It's this that caused traditional grading sources like Pro Football Focus to rework their grading process, and this that has caused so many wildly opposing evaluations of his game. Rumors, disaster QB tabbed as best vet to replace Dak Prescott. Perhaps it is because the NFL offseason has slowed as we twiddle our way through June and July in anticipation of the opening of training camp. Perhaps it is because Trevor Lawrence has agreed to a new contract with the Jaguars. But it does seem that lately, chatter around the Cowboys' situation with Dak Prescott has been picking up lately, and not in a way that would make you think the team is careening its way toward a deal with Prescott. No, the latest round of media musings on the Dak debacle is more focused on swallowing what many deemed an impossible notion just a few months ago: Dak Prescott hitting free agency and leaving the Cowboys. We can speculate where he might wind up once that happens. But in the meantime, the parlor game these days is what exactly might happen with the Cowboys' quarterback spot if they do in fact let Prescott go. There is Trey Lance. There is the draft. But it's almost certain, too, that the Cowboys would look to add an established veteran if indeed Prescott were set free. And one sentence of such speculation at the Cowboys site Blogging the Boys should serve to remind us how unappetizing Dallas options will be if Prescott leaves. Russell Wilson is probably the best vet QB Dallas could target to replace Prescott, but nothing he's accomplished in the past few years would suggest his play is on par with number 4. Russell Wilson was a disaster in Denver. Most anyone in and around the NFL is well-versed in the Russell Wilson situation. He finagled his way out of Seattle, with the Broncos sending a king's ransom to the Seahawks for the right to employ Wilson and pay him $242 million. Within 2 years and through 2 coaches, the Broncos were fed up with the Wilson experience and cut him, despite having to eat a record $85 million worth of dead money. The Ringer summed up Wilson's Denver tenure in a headline: "The Broncos' Russell Wilson era was a disaster." What comes next for both team and QB? But if Lance and a draftee do not work out in 2025, Wilson could well be the best option for Dallas. As BTB wrote, going with a veteran to replace Prescott is probably the most unlikely and least desired option for the Cowboys. Going this route would mean the Trey Lance trade experiment failed, and for whatever reason, they didn't come away with their future QB1 in the 2025 NFL draft either. This would be a tough pill to swallow for a variety of reasons, but there could be a stopgap player available via free agency to keep them competitive. Cowboys' options after Dak Prescott might not be so bad again. All this is contingent upon Prescott and the Cowboys not agreeing on a new contract, and there has been no sign that progress has been made. But that can change quickly. And while the first blush of Wilson as a Cowboy sounds deflating, remember that Wilson actually was not terrible in 2023. He threw for 3,070 yards in 15 games, with a 66.4% completion rate and 26 touchdowns against 8 interceptions, all with a so-so offense around him and a coach who did little to hide his disdain for Wilson. Wilson had a PFF grade of 77.5, which is not great but ranked 15th among QBs with at least 12 starts. The Broncos were 7-8 under Wilson, despite a defense that ranked 31st by PFF's metrics. All hope would not be lost then. Keep in mind, too, that Wilson will have played a year in Pittsburgh by 2025, and he'll either have shown he is a salvageable quarterback in the NFL or not worth the hassle. There will be other options, too, whose value could go up in the coming months. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. It's scary to picture a Cowboys future at quarterback in a post-Dak world. But if it happens, it might not be quite as rough as we may initially imagine. Promising Cowboys WR predicted to be cut before 2024 season. The Dallas Cowboys have a diverse group of wide receivers, but one of the most exciting names of the offseason could miss the 53-man roster. Cowboys rookie Ryan Flournoy has already prompted plenty of chatter and fan hype, but getting onto the roster isn't easy for anyone, especially when the Cowboys already have several talented options. Besides CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks leading the way, Dallas also has gadget options like Kayvontae Turpin and budding prospects like Jalen Brooks. That's why blogging the Boys writer LP Cruz thinks Flournoy will be cut before the 2024 season begins. Left off the roster is 6th-round pick Ryan Flournoy, who has been touted as an early favorite to play his way onto the team. Dallas will play it coy and try to sneak Flournoy onto the practice squad. With his size and physical maturity, it's easy to see why, Cruz wrote on June 21st. Besides Lamb, Cooks, Turpin, and Brooks, the 5th wide receiver Cruz predicts for the Cowboys to keep is Jalen Tolbert. Tolbert has also been named a potential cut candidate but has the context of being a third-year player for Dallas. What to know about Ryan Flournoy? The Cowboys only added one skill position player on offense in the 2024 NFL Draft, and that was Flournoy. For the average NFL fan, they likely weren't familiar with the rookie's game when his selection was announced. Flournoy attended multiple schools in his college career, but finished it with 2 years at Southeast Missouri State. Over 2 seasons with the Redhawks, Flournoy totaled 118 catches for 1,823 yards and 13 touchdowns. He was still not a major prospect, though, but Flournoy had established himself as a name to consider. He was invited to the 2024 NFL Combine, where his athletic feats helped his draft stock skyrocket. The 6 feet 1 inch receiver ran a 4.44 40-yard dash and matched it with a 39.5 vertical jump. NFL.com says his numbers ranked him 11th in athleticism among WR attendees. How that translates to Dallas and the NFL landscape remains to be seen, but there is plenty of reason to be optimistic about Flournoy. Veteran Cowboys WR could be released as mentioned above. Tolbert is another name to watch when Dallas starts cutting down to the 53-man roster. In a June 9th article, Inside the Star writer Mark Heaney stated why the Cowboys might move on from Tolbert. Tolbert has had opportunities over his first 2 seasons, he just hasn't capitalized on them to this point. If that trend stays throughout the preseason process, why shouldn't he be on the chopping block? It would allow Dallas to give more snaps to young receivers like Jalen Brooks and Ryan Flournoy. Heaney said, despite being a former 3rd-round pick, Tolbert has not developed into a prominent role for Dallas. He did earn the first starts of his career last year, but only totaled 22 receptions on 36 targets for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns. Going into 2024, the Cowboys would love for Tolbert to take the next step. The issue is that they may have other plans for players like Flournoy instead.